There's enormous amounts of opportunities in low carbon energy. Not only are there opportunities to reduce the carbon intensity of the projects that we're currently doing, there are also opportunities to reduce how much carbon is produced as a fundamental part of the way we do things. If you look at some of the things that Sahara is doing, we're part of a joint venture in terms of removing carbon from our emissions. So carbon capture and sequestration is something we seriously need to be looking at as an industry. And also the first thing we need to be doing is working out how we can reduce the carbon that we produce. And that's the easiest way to reduce carbons in our projects. So the climate change in Africa has to be looked at through a different lens to the rest of the world. Currently today, Africa produces around about 3% of the world's carbon dioxide, but it contains around 17 to 20% of the world's population. So in terms of the amount of carbon per person it produces, it's actually very low. However, you've also got a continent where, last year in Africa Oil Week, we talked about less than 50% of the population having access to clean fuel for cooking. So inevitably, the amount of carbon that is produced in Africa is going to go up, and we need to work out how we do that in a very responsible way so that we are actually complementing what is going on elsewhere in the country. For carbon in Africa, the challenge really is, how do you develop what historically has been very carbon intensive projects and turn those into projects that are much less carbon intensive? So it's about building in flare gas capturing on day one. It's about reducing the energy requirements that each project have. I heard a phrase a couple of weeks ago made by somebody else, so I can't lay claim to it, but first of all, you need to assess your need for energy. Then you need to reduce your need for energy, and then you need to replace where you get the energy for. And I think those three words are a great way to think about how we develop hydrocarbons in Africa, which is something we're going to have to do in order for Africa to actually develop where it needs to go. I think sustainable infrastructure is not just key for the energy transition, it is fundamental for the future of the world economy. I think even more so in an Africa context where, as we've said already, there is a shortage of energy per person. So if we are going to have a sustainable environment at a global level, everywhere where we're doing development, it needs to be done sustainably. And because of how energy poor on a per person basis Africa is, the bizarre thing about Africa is it has a surfeit of energy, it's just not being produced for people to use it. So when we actually start developing it, we have to do it in a sustainable way. And that is going to benefit not just Africa, but also the rest of the world. So Sahara is already participating in terms of looking at ways to clean up the projects that we currently have. We've got a variety of green energy, green electricity initiatives that we're doing, especially in Nigeria. And if you look at what we're doing more holistically, we're also trying to work out how we help people move from the kind of hydrocarbon liquid fuels to cleaner LPG in terms of our investment in terms of LPG infrastructure and supplying LPG into Africa.